Sadistic Penguin Studios presents the At the Show podcast with Tom Yumper Garcia.
Okay, you people sit tight, hold the fort, and keep the home fires burning. And if we're not back by dawn, call the president.
And Tony Chalsa Burt.
I don't know this industry jargon, YP, MP, whatever, okay? All I know is that I cannot get a record contract. We cannot get a record contract unless I take these tapes.
It's almost time, so grab a drink, get your popcorn ready, and join the film discussion with two guys from Chicago talking movies.
Mr. Alien is blocking our view because I forgot to take him down. Big fail by me, Tone. Welcome back to the At the Show podcast. I'm one of your co-hosts, Tom Yumper Garcia, and I'm with my other co-host, Tony the Sugar Baggy Burt. How you doing, my man?
Doing good. I'm glad to be back talking some flicks, some good ones.
Yes, sir. We took a week off to recharge the batteries, and we are back for episode 26 already. So we're flying through episodes this year. Maybe we might make it to 50. I don't know. But we have a pumped up show for you, a very, very action packed, as Mickey would say, from Pee-wee's Playhouse. We have a new segment debuting today, along with our favorite Alien movies. So there might be some confusion. No, we're not talking about the Sigourney Weaver films Alien. I mean, there might be one in there. But we are talking about films that feature aliens. With the release of Alien Romulus, we wanted to have something kind of like towards that genre.
Yeah, I think it was a very good idea, considering there's so many awesome, and as we're going to do some hidden gems, some favorites, lots of different ones.
Yeah, man. But let's get into the swing of things and go into what we've been watching this week.
Let's do it.
That's a me. And also, what were you just watching?
What you been watching this week, Tone?
Well, I'm going to get started with, one of my favorites. Well, you know how much we love Kurt Russell, but for me personally, I would deem it to be definitely in my top 3, 4, 5 romantic comedies of all time. I mean, I remember being 8 or 9 or 10 and just being like, this is this awesome couple that actually are a couple in real life with Goldie Hawn and Kurt Russell, but they're on screen chemistry and Overboard, which, if you're not familiar, is about a socialite who falls overboard and is rescued by Kurt Russell. While earlier before this, she's not a nice person and ends up throwing his tools while he works for her on her boat into the water. Her husband, which is played by an amazing Edward Herrmann from The Lost Boys, which is probably his one of his other roles that I remember, but just an all-around great romantic comedy that also, honestly, even today I quoted this part at work.
Hey, baby doll, what's for dinner?
When someone asks me how work's going, I go, buh, because sometimes that's how it is. But one of my personal favorites in the that category. Have you ever watched Overboard?
Yes, I've seen it. Edward Herrmann. I totally forgot he was in this movie.
Great in it. Real cheesy.
I know him mostly from Lost Boys, of course, and then my wife is a huge Gilmore Girls
Oh, yeah.
fan. He's the grandpa in Gilmore Girls, and every time I see him, I think like he should be a vampire. But yeah, definitely a good movie, man.
And the second movie I watched, it just premiered on NBC Peacock last week. The Bike Riders just came out in the theaters within the last month and a half, 2 months. Finally got to sit down and watch it. Personally, for myself, I love the movie. These are my type of favorite movies. A movie where you're just kind of like hanging out, kind of like it's like a lot of it's Stand By Me-ish, where you're following these characters are kind of growing. There was a couple things that I had problems with, but I could find any movie and find some problems with them. It's more of the characters that I really enjoyed. I was a really, really big fan of Tom Hardy's part in the movie.
Get the fuck out of here. What kind of piece of shit are you? They leave your friends behind? Hey, babe.
Just a really, I think, a great performance. If you've ever seen him in The Drop with James Gandolfini, my wife said this would be a great double feature because, again, there are things. Again, the movie is based upon a book that just had pictures in it, so they had to do some really like. There's a lot of like the scenes are just like scenes put together. I really enjoy a lot of like Michael Shannon who's in it. Norman Reedus does a really good job. A really deep cast. Boyd Holbrook does a great job. My probably biggest problem was the head lead's accent. She could have been toned down a little bit. But besides that, I think it plays well with the type of movies that I enjoy. If you haven't seen it, I personally suggest it.
Is this movie based in Chicago?
Yes.
Okay. So I've known people who've seen this film and they said it wasn't bad, but they actually hated Tom Hardy's accent.
See, I think that, like, for me personally, even just saying it out loud is stupid. But
Mhm.
hey, people have an opinion. Because when you watch a movie, I'm not like, oh my God, this guy's not playing the Chicago accent the way the Chicago accent's supposed to be played. Now, I've been told by somebody on another podcast that I was on that I have a Chicago accent. I don't care about no accent. I'm caring about the performance that's on screen. But hey, people have their opinions. That's why they get to have them.
Well, he sounded like he was from New York in that clip. So
But that's what but like, are you watching a movie for an accent?
yes,
Or
Tony, it has to be
I
authentic.
am not. Then we're gonna go through every movie tonight. Like, okay, The Untouchables. I can't wait to get to this one. Let's go.
Yes, it's okay. We can go to my first movie, The Untouchables, Tony, where an Irishman played by a Scotsman has an Irish accent. No,
I never thought of the movie watching it until now, debating you about accents in a movie.
no, I just heard something. His accent did sound like it was from New York, though.
I watched the movie like Stand By Me. I just watched it to watch it. I'm not like, oh my God, like Aliens. I could read you a bunch of clips about Romulus already that people are like, this little thing didn't happen. This wasn't the way it was supposed to be. I don't subscribe to that, but hey, if others do, like I said, go ahead and do it.
I am not amused.
No, so
you like to do that, but that's fine.
I do.
Let's go to your movie, though.
So the first film I watched was The Untouchables. I actually saw a lot of clips on this actually on YouTube Shorts during my lunch break. So actually maybe you want to watch it. And then I heard the story about Denzel when he was up for an Oscar against Sean Connery, and he said Sean Connery actually presented an award and they gave him a standing ovation, and he said he knew he lost that night just from presenting an award. But it was based off the show from the 1950s. Of course, it's based with Al Capone and the bootlegging and prohibition. Kevin Costner took the role of Elliot Ness. Kevin Costner has like this certain kind of way of acting. It kind of seems like he's kind of similar person in all the roles he does, but I like Kevin Costner. I thought the movie, it's a classic film with a lot of the stuff is not really historically accurate, but it's very entertaining, and I do like De Niro as Capone. It's got a lot of scenes that have been imitated in, parody through cartoons, other TV shows, the baseball bat to the head thing. I mean, I was parodying The Simpsons and other shows. Probably one of my favorites that really doesn't get a lot talked about when we talk about De Niro performances. I know you've seen The Untouchables. What do you think about it?
It's a good movie. I know on a later date we could get into it by my love of Scarface versus your love of The Untouchables, but that would probably be another conversation because I find the same flaws in The Untouchables that you would find the flaws in Scarface, and not the quality of the acting. I think it's a lot of the way it looks, the way it's filmed. I do agree that Scarface is dated, but I also agree that some of the Untouchables, I can't get out of my head Naked Gun with the baby coming down the stairs and they spoof it. But
Yeah.
You saying Kevin Costner, he's amazing. You didn't even bring up the amazing Andy Garcia, who we love. Connery is Connery. I really wanted to pick a Connery movie to start my thing, but I went overboard instead. A great cast. So it's hard to knock the movie because of all of the greatness. And as you stated, De Niro's performance is awesome when he's like, I want him dead. I want him. That whole scene, amazing. You can't knock this movie.
I knew a teacher that used to quote that quote whenever somebody was late with their work. At night, I'm gonna come out to your house and piss on the ashes. And then the second film I watched should have been nominated for many Oscars. It's a front of the show, Pauly Shore classic, The Encino Man. With I'm not a huge Sean Astin fan. He kind of annoys me a little bit, especially in Lord of the Rings as Samwise.
I would love 51st Dates.
Well, he was funny in that, but like when he's the dorky guy in the films, it just kind of annoys me. I really like Rudy. I'm not a Rudy fan, but Encino Man and Son-in-Law are like my wife and my like two of our favorite like comedy movies. Young Brendan Fraser. You have Pauly Shore as Stoney, which is hilarious, and it's totally something that it has such a stupid story that it's great. I just love this film. My wife already is yelling at me because I watched it without her. But yeah, totally one of Pauly Shore's classics. And Link is actually in a few of his movies. He comes back, I think, in Son-in-Law as Link, and then he comes in the Army now as Link. So he's a reoccurring character in 3 of his movies. So, but what do you think about Encino Man, my man?
Well, before we lead into what our topic is tonight, I'm going to ask you, there is an actor in this movie from a really awesome Alien movie. Can you name the actor in the Alien movie?
Is it the grandpa? No,
it's the dad, Richard Mazer. And the thing,
Richard Mazer.
He's the one who does the dog, who takes care of the dogs or whatever.
Yeah.
But Richard Mazer's awesome. Does a lot of great dad roles. He's my favorite dad in License to Drive with the Coreys. But again, awesome. I mean, as you stated, Brendan Fraser. This is kind of where you're getting used to him and getting, it's a good one. I like the other one you said more, Son-in-Law. Is that what you said? The other one?
Yeah.
Yeah, I love Son-in-Law. Just happened to watch that sometime and really enjoyed that. But good picks.
Yeah, Richard Mazer, also the first Stanley Yelowitz from It.
Yeah, he sure was. Wasn't he the first one to get it in the movie too?
Yeah, he kills himself in the bathroom.
In the tub. Yeah, that's what I always remember. Because I don't know if you did, but you might have. But watching that live, like I sat there on ABC. Well, I remember watching it and watching that scene with him in the tub. It was like, and now you look back and you're like, ABC doesn't do anything like this anymore.
Yeah, we watched it and they recorded it on a VCR.
That's awesome.
So, and then we eventually watched the box set. But yeah, crazy stuff. But that's what we've been watching this week. Let us know what you've been watching over at the At the Show Pod on the Twitters or X or whatever the hell it's called next week when Elon sells it. Or let us know on Facebook at the Sadistic Penguin Studios or in the YouTube comments. But without further ado, Tone, we have a special segment coming up from one of our own fellow penguins. As you know, Tony and I are huge fans of horror movie and the horror genre. One of our fellow penguins is actually a huge fan as well. And Keelin, we had her on before for one of our segments to in defense of. So we decided, talking to her, we wanted to have her with all her horror picks that she goes through, because me and her text back and she sits and chats some of the movies that she watches. We wanted to have her own segment. So this is the first segment, an introduction of Keelin's Cuts. So let's get to that little video for her.
Let's do it.
That was amazing. Beautiful work. Hi.
Hello, Keelin.
Hi. How are you guys?
Good. How are you doing?
Good. I really appreciated the Richard Mazer love. Yeah. There was a show on, I think it was ABC, or not a show, it was like a Disney movie when they did those on, I think it was ABC, and it was called Mr. Boogedy, and he was the dad in it, and maybe I'll bring that up sometime because it was awesome.
All immature 7th grade of me and my friends sitting around circles, and we found out like some of these actors, Richard Mazer, Ed Begley Jr. We would say their names and laugh like hard, like that's what the extent of us having fun was. So Richard
the dads
Mazer goes way back for being awesome.
It was awesome.
Nice. So Key, we all like in the introduction I gave you, we know you're into horror. So what got you into the horror genre?
Yeah, so that's actually kind of a tough question because I remember being very little and afraid of a lot of things, like the Quaker Oats man. And my brother actually drew a picture of it, like the Tim Curry It. And for whatever reason, my mom like hung it up in her office. So I would like sneak around it and stuff. So I remember going from that to being like, ooh, like give me more of this. And I think part of that is just growing up in the era of like Goosebumps, the books and the show, and also, I mean, Are You Afraid of the Dark? And then, you know, there was that like kind of like the 90s horror was like definitely a very transitional period. And I think just having grown up with some of the things that are like now kind of classics, like Scream and stuff like that. Yeah, I think it was kind of hard to avoid it. And then also I have an older brother who definitely influenced me. Like, let's be real, that's how a lot of people get into it. Some older person is like, you want to see something scary?
I still have somewhere around here like my dad's original VHS when he recorded the thing off the TV. But then what he did in pen was like draw this really cool thing on the actual VHS. Like,
that's cool.
picture. So it's something you could always look at and be like, this part of time was like obviously awesome, you know.
Yeah.
Recorded on tapes and all the cool pictures.
Yeah.
I do love the fact that you went from being scared of the Quaker Oats man to it, which is like a totally big jump there.
Any kind of man with like crazy hair that was very, very white or pale.
That's great. Did you have a favorite horror movie growing up?
So I don't know that it was, I'll say it was my favorite. I'm not going to claim it was in good taste. I was definitely very fascinated with all of the Child's Plays, terrified of them. I remember my mama, she would like be like, we're going to buy a Chucky doll and put it in your bed, which is so evil. Like, so evil. So for the longest time, he was just this like kind of, I had seen flashes of him in like the movie store on VHS covers. And then, you know, I didn't finally actually get to see the movies until I would like sleep over with my friend in fourth grade, and they'd play all of the like Halloween movies, like literally Halloween, also like Friday the 13th sometimes. But they played Chucky or Child's Play. And so I finally got to see them, and I was like, okay, this guy's really not that scary. Like, I could kick him across the room. So, yeah.
Did you ever see the Mexican Chucky?
No, but I want to now. What's his name?
No, it's Chucky, but it's in Spanish.
It's Spanish.
Yeah, my buddy sent it to me one time because I guess it was being on like Univision. He sent it to me, and then I found it on Instagram a little while ago. I sent it to you, right, Tone, when she's trying to throw him in the
the fireplace. Oh, I have seen that. Yeah, and he's like cussing. Yeah. That's awesome.
Child's Play is one of our favorites too. I grew up watching that as well. Really good film. So you brought a film called Campfire Tales. Just to give a little background on it. It's a 1997 film. It was directed by Matt Cooper, Martin Kernett, and David Semmel. It has up-and-coming stars in James Marsden, Amy Smart, Frederick Lawrence, Christine Taylor, and Ron Livingston. It also has a young Glenn Quinn in it, which is pretty crazy. And it had a budget of $2 million and no record of anything at the box office. So Key, as a person that has never seen this film, convince a new viewer why they should get into it.
So that's a really hard question because honestly, I feel like I would say, and I've thought about this. So it's a very good movie for kind of, if you grew up with Are You Afraid of the Dark, if you grew up with Goosebumps, it's like a slightly more, I guess, teenager version of that, or maybe like young adult version of that. So it was made, like you said, 1997. So there's still a lot of like, obviously this is very 90s. So there's a lot of just like nostalgia with it without, I feel like it's a stepping stone in between like, yeah, Are You Afraid of the Dark, Goosebumps, and like Scream, which I think was made a little bit before this movie. So it is an anthology, which I know typically doesn't really do well in theaters in all cases. So, you know, that's kind of cool because it breaks it up into different stories. So you're not keeping your foot in one place anytime too long. And then I think it's also interesting because they're like quintessential campfire tales. Sometimes they have a spin. You might hear them a little differently than what you've heard them growing up, but it's nice to have a visual aspect to it and actually see it come alive. And it makes it, I feel like I read a quote or a review that somebody was like, oh, it's very sanitized. And I was like, I don't feel like that's fair because you literally see Ron Livingston like eviscerated. So yeah, I would say it's a nice, like, not as crazy as Scream, but also like a step up from that if you want some like 90s nostalgia of that like campfire telling classic tales of things. But, you know, maybe not. Maybe you want it in like small bites. And the stories are really good too. That's my pitch.
That's a good pitch, man. You brought up the Are You Afraid of the Dark and the shows that we used to watch as kids. You get that a lot, especially it's considering campfire tales and sitting around a campfire. What were some of the favorite parts of the film?
Yeah, so I think like you mentioned, you know, the cast is really interesting. And the first time I saw this, I don't actually remember how old I was. I think I might have been maybe in middle school or high school. And I just happened to find it on TV. It was just on and I was like, what is this? Fine, I'll just like leave this on. And I was like, holy, like this is pretty dark. But yeah, it has Christine Taylor, who you've probably seen in Zoolander and is Ben Stiller's wife. She's in it. Well, I don't know if that he's non-problematic, but the Masterson that's not in prison, one of them, is it Christopher? I think Christopher Masterson. Yeah. the one that's not in prison. Always the success.
Yeah, that was good.
Yeah, the one thing that I actually, you know, I did a little research before I came here, and I didn't realize one of the main guys around the campfire, he's the guy who played Stan Rizzo from Mad Men. He was like the bearded guy that ran the art department. Yeah, I did not realize that was him. I've even watched this recently and I was like, did not clock that. So I think that's pretty cool just to see, James Marsden, Amy Smart, Ron Livingston, even though he was active at that time doing other movies. It's cool to see them so young and just like in this movie. And then, I mean, some of the stories, like I mentioned, are, I think, especially timely. Especially the one with the younger girl who's been exploring the early internet and chatting with somebody she thinks is a friend and is not a friend, is a foe. Yeah. So I really like that. And then, I just like how it's kind of wrapped up and you know, you've got an hour story with...
I like the name of that story is called People Can Lick Too. Which is a great title for
yeah. And I actually forgot, like when I first saw this movie, that like creeped me out so bad, but I forgot the name of this movie and I've gone back year after year and like looked for it and I'm like, this is the one part I can remember clearly, very clearly. Yeah, super creepy.
I remember watching that this film. It came on Cinemax. I think one late night. I was by my aunt used to live next door to us. And I was there for some reason, and I was watching it like at night. And that's the story that came on was that one. When I saw because when she goes through the garage and then like the lights are flashing, I'm like, what is this? And then she went to sit down and like she sees a thing that says people can lick too, and the guy licks her hand.
Yeah. I feel like it's really well done, and I think that's the other thing too. I don't know about like you guys, but I was like definitely a latchkey kid. Like I would be home alone a shit ton as a child. And I would just, you know, the way they filmed the girl, I was like, this is so familiar even now, because I remember like being home alone and walking around like spaces like that and just being creepy, but like, oh yeah, I'm fine, I'm okay. And then to see that play out, and it's like, oh, there's, for everybody listening, there's basically, yeah, she's been chatting online with somebody she thinks is somebody her age that's a girl, and it's some creep that's been like stalking her pretty much, and he gets into her house and he kills her dog. But the good thing is, I hate animal death. It's a very fake dog. So he kills her dog, and like the dog usually sleeps under her bed, so he lays under her bed. And yeah, like Jumper said, she sees on the mirror, and like I guess the dog's blood. People can lick too, and then he like under the bed comes in focus, and it's just this creepy guy licking this child's fingers, and it's very disturbing. Yeah, but like a kind of a classic. I remember there was like a horror story. I think it was about two like roommates in college that was a similar thing. So it wasn't like that level of creepy, but adding in that like chat room element. And I think there was another movie, like a D. Snyder wrote a movie called Strangeland about a similar thing, which is a weird movie. But yeah, that was like a big theme back then. Just can't trust people on the internet.
Yeah, we talked about that not too long ago. We actually showed the picture of him as the villain in that film. But I mean, this was, I remember too, like at this time the internet was still young, and unfortunately, this is something that still happens today with catfishing and a lot of bad things. So it's still like predominant today, but it's pretty crazy the way it was thought of in this film.
Yeah.
So I know that probably it's probably the creepiest story. I also remember the one with Glenn Quinn with the girl with the necklace and her dad. That always cracked me up. Maybe I was a sadistic kid, but at the end when the ending, spoiler alert, when he pulls off the necklace and her head comes off, it always made me laugh. And like I watched the scene today, just to go back, I was watching it in the background today, the scene, and it just made me laugh because he's like, oh,
and it just goes bloop.
Yeah.
Yeah, that one is, I know, I feel like the people can lick too one stands out. And yeah, that one is kind of weird. Although I do remember the most recent watch I had of that one, there's a lot of like screaming and stuff when this girl whose father, I guess, was like abusive and murdered her over having a man or boy, whatever, over to her house. It replays it. She relives this experience like night after night of her dad coming home and like murdering her and whoever she's been with and throwing them in a well. And it just like, it sounds like a Disney ride almost, but like a scary Disney ride where there's murder.
I think it's them though, right? It's him. It's Glenn Quinn and her, isn't it? That he killed.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that might have, yeah, it is. Yeah.
Because he opens up the pendant and it's them too.
Yeah.
So he's dead.
And then,
you know it.
Yeah, and then he makes her head come off. The ultimate romantic gesture.
After sleeping under the willow tree.
Yeah, with his motorcycle.
Anthology movies are great. I mean, there isn't an anthology horror movie that I don't enjoy. I can't think of one that I have seen. I just love the idea of splitting 4 stories or 5 into one movie.
Yeah, I agree. I think they're pretty cool and they're very memorable because it only takes just like, oh bye. It only takes just like a little bit to be impactful and very quickly too. And I think just shows the power of storytelling that sometimes that's good enough. Like that 10, 15 minutes.
Yeah, and if they're done correctly, I mean, they can be very, very good and memorable. I mean, Trick or Treat is probably a really good anthology that we went over.
Yeah, that is a good one.
And I really liked how that one, well, this one too, like this one has everything kind of coincide into like intertwined that everything's happening. Creep Show is another anthology movie that we just getting on things. But why doesn't this one get enough love, Keelin?
Yeah, and I think, Jumper, you actually brought this up and I didn't know this. So I think there was no like theatrical release in the US. That's what I think you said, and that's also what I think I read too. So I guess it didn't really ever hit theaters. It sounded like they had something planned, but it just never hit theaters. So it was never really talked about. I never heard about it growing up. Kind of like you, I just happened to come across it on TV and I don't really hear anybody talk about it now, despite, all of the people in it. But yeah, I think that probably made a big aspect. I do wonder, like I said, if the anthology part is the same kind of like impact on it, that you don't really, not to say no anthologies do well in the theaters, but I can't even think of one, but if you guys can think of one, I would definitely like to know too. And then I think, like I think I mentioned, it came out a little after Scream, and then was, I think, closely either followed or was like close to I Know What You Did Last Summer. And I mean, those are like hard to compete with, those were huge when they came out, and they've continued to be huge. So, and they were just, different. I mean, they're already like legends, and it's not crazy far removed, but I guess it is almost 30 years, which is terrifying. So I think probably that as well. They just got this movie got kind of swallowed up by all of that. And yeah, it's a fun movie.
Now I want to watch Tales from the Hood. I just want to go.
Tales from the Hood? Yeah, Tales from the Hood. It's good. That was one that I looked at where I was like, I like this one, but I feel like that one has like a higher status than Campfire Tales. Yeah.
But Campfire Tales is great. It was a really good one to revisit. I mean, I'm a big fan of some of these actors, and didn't even realize they were in this movie until rewatching it again, because this is the first time me watching it. I don't know how I missed this one. It was
cool. Good. Really good. Yeah, and I think one thing too we didn't really talk about is that like all of these stories are obviously stories told around a campfire, and so there's another story going on outside of it with these kids telling the campfire tales. And it is basically that they were coming home from a concert, these 4 kids in a car, and the driver was driving drunk, and you find out at the very end because it turns out they are also dead. And like they start to feel cold and stuff, and they realize like, oh, we're all dead because this guy was drinking and driving. So it's like a PSA wrapped around all of these little stories. Yeah.
Everybody in the story has a part in taking care of them. Like Glenn Quinn and the girl are their paramedics, and then the people they killed in the RV are the other people, and it's just ridiculous.
Yeah, it is. I'm not gonna lie, and to be fair, the first time I saw it, I was pretty young. I was like, "What?" Sorry, everybody, if we spoiled it for you. I know you're gonna go watch it right now, so my bad.
Still go watch it. It's it's only 17 years old,
Yeah.
No, 27 years old.
Yeah, I know. I was like, I think it's older.
17.
We're aging rapidly.
Oh my goodness, Jesus. But this is a good pick, Key. A good one to start off for your Keelin's Cuts. So I know you will be back with more in the future.
That's my sound. That's my sound effect for this.
I like it.
Where can everybody find you at?
Me. I am on Twitter. Oh God, I always forget how to spell it, but it's Whisker Biscuit, where all of the I's are 1s and the E's are 3s. And I'm on Blue Sky. I think it's Keelin _12 foot, and it's FT instead of FOOT. And I do stuff for Razzball. Every Saturday I have an article come out about fantasy baseball injuries. So I don't know if you're into that. That's cool. That's where you can find me.
Awesome.
I would like to read that while watching Campfire Tales. It sounds like a good double back to back,
Yeah, you get to read about horrific. Well, some of them aren't, like blisters. It's not that bad. Back surgery, that's pretty bad. Yeah, and watch people lick
get their heads
fingers
off with necklaces.
Exactly.
Watch people with hooks and people with fingers.
Yeah.
Great pick, Key. But we are definitely going to have you on. So it's going to be kind of a reoccurring segment, especially with Halloween coming up in the next couple months. You have a bunch of movies I know in the can that you want to talk about, so we will definitely be having you on again. Thank you so much for coming on.
Yeah, thank you guys. It was fun. Bye.
Take it easy. The great Keelin. Yeah, Keelin's a hilarious person to me because
it's so hard to go off script. Like when you started talking about Glenn Quinn, I wanted to say I just saw him in Dr. Giggles, and then we could have talked about Dr. Giggles, and then that could have went to that. You know what I mean? So that's what's great about horror movies. We can just keep going.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. She cracked me up when she told me she was afraid of the Quaker Oats man, because it reminded me of my brother used to watch Rugrats a lot, and Chucky was afraid. The character Chucky was afraid of the oatmeal guy. That's what he always complained about. So that's why it made me laugh.
I'm
But
really good at when she said that. I immediately got a movie in my head with the Quaker Oats guy and his hair, like the axe swinging, and I don't know,
like Uncle Sam, that
Yeah,
film Uncle
it
Sam.
would be like that. Yes.
But be sure to check her out at Razzball. She'll be dropping some stuff for us as well. And she'll be back again on the show with her picks. So really, really happy to have her on. But let's get to the meat and potatoes of the show, Tone. Let's get the show moving along. Like we said, with Alien and Romulus coming out, I keep getting tongue-tied on that. We want to do some films with aliens. So we went and picked 5 of our films, maybe from hidden gems or films that aren't talked about a lot, and we decided to go out with them for this show and give us the old format of 5 and 5.
I'm excited. This is going to be good. A lot of good deep cuts, a lot of great movies that we're going to talk about.
Cool. You want to get into the first one, my man?
Let's do it.
Ooh, here we go.
And you go in pieces.
1990s I Come in Peace or Dark Angel, directed by Craig R. Baxley, who also directed the only starring film for our man Apollo Creed, Action Jackson. Also, he directed Stone Cold, and he did stunts on Predator. So Carl Weathers actually worked with him twice. The film stars Dolph Lundgren, Brian Benben, Betsy Bradley, and Matthias Hughes, who plays one of the aliens. And those are all his lines from the film, as I just played. All his lines. All he says is "I come in peace." The film had a box office of $4.7 million on a $7 million budget. This is one of my picks. I wrote a blog about this maybe a month and a half ago because I was watching the film, and it is totally 80s cheesy sci-fi. It's hilarious because you have 2 aliens, one's a cop and one's a I guess drug lord who lives off endorphins that he steals from humans that is very valuable in the space people, I guess, buy endorphins off people. And they are basically all caught up in this as a cop played by Dolph Lundgren who has his partner killed by the alien, and he eventually decides to go out and try to get revenge. It's ridiculous. It's got gangs by the name of the White Boys that he fights against. It's totally like late 80s, 90s, and Dolph Lundgren is in the middle of it. It's a better film than The Punisher, and it's rather hilarious. Tone, have you finally seen this one?
Oh, have I finally? I remember exactly the first time I seen this movie. It was a rental by my father. He rented this in Backdraft in 1991. And we watched them both in the same night. And I'll always remember because they're such good movies, but different reasons. And not even being 10 years old, like 9 years old, and realizing these movies are great. But like one is about Dolph Lundgren. I mean, I think my dad idolized Dolph Lundgren more than religion in my house. So like the idea of 80s and Dolph Lundgren and I Come in Peace, it was like, this is going to be really going to be awesome. And the movie delivered. And it's, to me, you doing that article, it had been a while since I had re-seen it. But then when I read your article, man, I had to definitely go back and rewatch it. I mean, the alien with those eyes.
Yeah, and the crazy thing is, Matthias Hughes wore contacts for that character, and they said that he could barely see. So the crew was actually worried about him, and he did all his stunts. They said that when he had the contacts on, they were scared he was gonna get blown up by the explosions in the movie. It's crazy. This film sticks out to me because for a while, like, there were rumors of a video game coming out, and there were rumors of a sequel coming out that never happened. And then when I did a little research for this, our show, I found that Joel Silver actually really liked the film, the story, but he couldn't get along with Bernie Brillstein, who is like a big power producer.
Mhm.
They couldn't get along on what they wanted to do in the direction of the film. So eventually it just kind of died out and then was basically made into a B movie like it is now. And then the alien gun they carry around, that big gun, is a ColecoVision gun, which is great. But definitely, it's a film that's not talked about a lot, but definitely packs a bunch of action, and then it's fun.
I'm a big fan of the actor Michael J. Pollard. He
Mhm.
plays a petty thief in this movie.
Mm.
I always like in these late 80s movies where these actors that I've seen in so many other movies, they only show up maybe for 3. I mean, we did Roadhouse and we talked about Keith David barely being in the movie, but he's like in the thing half of the movie, you know. You can just come and do these little scenes like that. And I think it's a good movie for the time when it came out, and I would like to see them do like one of those 4K restorations, cool boxes, the whole 9 yards. I think that would be pretty awesome.
Yeah, yeah, it'd be awesome. They started bringing the film out more. Now it's on Prime for free if you have Prime Video. I bought this film when there was very limited releases. I actually bought it off eBay maybe 8 years ago. So I have a DVD for it, and it's just basically the picture of the film and the sound music from the chase from the alien in the menu. That's all it is. Bum, 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 bum. But, definitely, if you have not seen this one, check this one out. It's on Amazon Prime. So if you have Amazon, Prime, you can watch it for free. Uh,
And
it's
I
worth
just
your
have
time.
to repeat this because we used to talk about this a lot. Brian Benben is married to Madeline Stowe. Just think about
Mm.
that. All right, let's move on.
Yeah, let's go on to the next one, my friend.
Who shall be lifted up to rapture when the judgment trump blows? None but the faithful, brothers and sisters. None but the faithful.
1988's The Blob, directed by Chuck Russell, who also did Erasure, The Mask, The Scorpion King, and A Nightmare on Elm Street: The Dream Warriors Part 3. The movie stars Shawnee Smith, Kevin Dillon, Donovan Leigh Jr., and Jeffrey DeMoon. My movie had a budget of $10 million and $88.2 million at the box office. Tell me why you picked this one, my man.
I really in again, it's one that's more of what's the word I'm looking for? That I again remember seeing it again 8, 9 years old for the very first time. To me, the movie in itself, I believe the FX, they hold up bar none to a lot of other movies. A really good, I like the original too with Steve McQueen, which is awesome. The original, I think it was from 58, somewhere around there. But it's another one that just is really cool because if you think about it, most of the alien movies are extraterrestrial beings, creatures. This is a blob, like literally a blob, which looks like ectoplasm from Ghostbusters. So I really always enjoyed this, and this is my introduction to Kevin Dillon. So then me watching Entourage, you could imagine just how cool to see his career then start back up after The Blob.
Yeah, he also was in Platoon before this.
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
But I've seen both versions. I actually like both versions. Actually, like both versions. And this one is really good because it has like an updated story. The graphics are awesome. They still hold up to today. Uh, it's also I also have some awesome kills. Like the one you just showed right now was good. The one where the police officer is actually getting pulled into the bookcase.
Yes,
That one looks gnarly, man, when
yes,
it snaps him in half.
yes,
And I actually like this ending better than I did the original because the original always made me laugh because it looks like they're just dropping a big ice cube.
yes, yes.
Um, but I really, really like Del Close in this film as the preacher.
Oh yeah.
Uh, I thought he was awesome. And looking through his filmography, he's been in like movies. He was a teacher in Ferris Bueller's Day Off. The one that says, "How do you say prison?" And he was actually in The Untouchables too as an alderman. He had really small roles, but he was really phenomenal as the preacher in the film. Uh, I really enjoyed this film. It was nice to go back and watch it. it was a good pick because I watched it, during the week on my train ride, and I really enjoyed it again. Great pick, man.
Another name that I like to throw around a lot is Art LaFleur from
Mhm.
Cobra, and he does a great job in this as her dad working at the pharmacy. And again, there was rumors for a long time. It never came to fruition that Rob Zombie was going to do a version. Um, I don't. I think it could play well with if they did it right. Not with him, of course, maybe, but with played right, maybe with like an Evil Dead type of way. But I don't know what the interest would be. I would be interested.
Yeah, I'd be interested. I don't know. Rob, his view of this would be kind of weird to see.
Well,
I think
that's what my problem is I have a problem with his view of Halloween, I have a problem with his view of the Munsters, I'll probably have a problem with view of this.
Yeah, but I would still see it. I thought it was pretty interesting when you said, Steve McQueen had been in the original, which he was. His son was actually offered a role in this film, and he passed it right away because he doesn't want to do anything his dad did in terms of remake. Uh, but this some of the scenes from this film that were cut of the Blob are actually showed in Ghostbusters too.
Really? See, that's what I was saying. It gave me that when under the city vibes with the ectoplasm or whatever they called that.
Mhm. Yeah, so some of the scenes that weren't shown were actually used in it. And it's like one of the first films to really use CGI a lot. And there was rumors that it was like $15 million to $19 million, with 12 of that going towards CGI, which turned out to be false. It only had like a $10 million budget. But the graphics hold up. I mean, they still look good. I do find it hilarious at the end of the film when she's trying to protect the main character when he's stuck in the truck and
Uh-huh.
she's shooting at him. Before she goes to protect him, she goes and moves that guy that's on the floor, and his arm and leg are kind of messed up.
Yeah.
And he's like, "Help me!" And she just completely ignores him and goes to shoot the blob. Which I'm like, damn, she was cold blooded, man. But
Help me.
yeah, and he's still alive. I thought he like maybe died after that, but he was still moving around. So I'm like, oh, she just left him there to die. But definitely, a classic, and it was made into this, a remake. So it was a good remake. I thought, unfortunately, horror movies get remakes, and some of them you get, either the Halloweens or you get something decent like House on Haunted Hill. And I think this is more on the more decent, enjoyable side.
Well, I'm sure one day we'll do a bigger, deeper dive on something like The Thing, where The
Mhm.
Thing has a remake, but the original also I think is awesome if you have ever seen the original.
Oh yes, yes, Thing from Another Planet. Mhm.
So, but like I think that's more of a popular comparison for The Thing being more popular probably than this 88 Blob, but they're both pretty good in comparison for being a remake. For the time, I think.
Yeah, yeah. So really, really good pick, Tone. Really good pick. Move on to the next one.
Let's do it.
Homicides, missing people, dozens of them. It's been happening there since the 1960s. And the FBI been dropping in from time to time.
What did they find?
Nothing.
The Fourth Kind, released in 2009, directed by, and please bear with me, Alatunde Osunami, if that's the way you say it. Hopefully that's correct. He also directed The Cavern, Evidence, and he did 6 episodes of Falling Skies. He did a lot of TV one-offs that I don't want to mention, but those are like his big things. The film stars Mila Djokovic, Elias Kostis, William Patton, and Charlotte Milkerd. The movie had a budget of 10 million and made a box office of 47 million with 2.8 million in video sales. This film I remember seeing, I believe I rented when it came out when I was actually back living in Champaign, when I got a job down there after college. Uh, this I remember watching this one night with my friends and we were like creeped out by it. We thought it was real because it says it's based off a real true story, and we knew it was reenactments of the film, but the footage of the woman and then, stuff like that. And this was kind of like after the found footage stuff had kind of gone away, and then you had Paranormal Activity come out, and then this kind of film came with it, and it was sold as a real true story. Which, even though you don't see the aliens in this film, there's much more going on, feelings and it kind of reminds you of like the old school 1940s, 30s films like Cat People. You
Mhm.
don't actually see the cat people, but you hear the sounds of them, and it draws your attention away. this is what something that, like, really was out there, creeped you out, and for those who don't know, the 4th kind is when you're abducted is the 4th kind of encounter, you're abducted by aliens. Uh, definitely, a creepy film. I know it angered a lot of people when they came out and find out that it's not a true story, it was a hoax, uh, and it really angered a lot of the indigenous people because where the film was filmed in Alaska, for one, there was no indigenous people there in the film, and it's 50% indigenous there, and 2, when it was talking about missing people, there was a lot of missing people that's still ongoing within indigenous reservations, but they didn't like the fact that they were, calling them, using it as alien abductions. But if we take that, those factors out, I really enjoyed the film, even though rewatching it's a little corny at the end, or like, "Oh, you decide if it's true." But, definitely has that eerie feeling to it, a good, rewatch and a good one to if you were looking for something a little different in terms of the alien genre, then you wanna go kinda the found footage, this is kinda like where for me, it's top notch up there. What do you think about it, Tom?
It's a good movie. It's a good watch. Um, Probably one of my least favorite, categories is the found footage films. I remember walking out of Blair Witch pretty pissed off. But this movie is different because I'm willing to watch these actors who are in it. I mean, the ones that you mentioned, Will Patton, Mila Jovovich, Elias Koteas is one of my favorites in so many movies, and they do a good job in this. And it was one that I believe a long while ago you had mentioned, and I checked out, and it was a good watch.
Did you see the remake of, The Blair Witch?
Yes, I did.
Did you like it?
It was okay. I'm not. I try not. I like the pair. I don't want to get too negative. I just am not into a lot of that part
Mhm.
because I find it to be. It doesn't scare me. I think that's what it is, and I think there are people who are like Paranormal Activity 6. This still scares me. In my mind, I'm like, how many found footage videos are you finding here? But I understand though there is good and there's bad. It's like anything, you know. I didn't mention when we were talking earlier about anthologies, but man, there's like 100 that are awful on like Amazon or something. Like if you sit there and go through, so like that's what I mean. Like so, like this one is actually, it's pretty good. Whereas like, my problem with the original Blair Witch, I think, was the payoff. It did scare me, him standing in the corner in the bottom, but it was like, I don't know. But this was a good movie. It was a good pick, and it was a good one that I revisited yesterday while I was putting the slides together.
Nice, nice. Yeah, probably the creepiest parts towards more the end when they show her get, pulled, like
Yeah.
they abducted, that's the whole, like, part that was creepy out. Uh, and this is before, like, there was deep dives in films and, like, there were still books coming out about stuff that was claimed to be true stories that was, found out to be hoaxes. This film kinda did the same thing of playing on that, and when I found out it was fake, I'm like, "Son of a bitch." But, I mean, one of the other films we have on here actually is posted as a true story, and that one came out to be fake as well, but in later years. But yeah, if you haven't seen this one, check it out. It's a definitely worth a watch. It has a lot of creepiness factor in it. You're not gonna see a bunch of aliens in it, but you definitely will get those vibes of being freaked out. And I think its pacing is actually pretty well too.
Sometimes not showing the alien, like you said earlier, isn't a huge thing. I mean, I don't know how you feel about Signs, but when I saw it the very first time in the theater, I was pretty entertained, and they didn't really show any aliens in the movie. And when
Mhm.
they did, they actually made the movie not as good as it was when the aliens weren't shown. But that's just was my opinion on that.
Yeah. Um, but check this one out if you haven't. But next, go on to the next one, man. I know you're really excited about this one.
Now, I want the people to know that they still have 2 out of 3 branches of the government working for them, and that ain't bad.
1996's Mars Attacks, directed by Tim Burton, who directed Edward Scissorhands, Frankenweenie, Corpse Bride, Sweeney Todd, The Demon Barber of Fleet Street, Beetlejuice 1 and 2. Batman and Batman Returns, and Big Fish. It's a lot of movies. Film stars Jack Nicholson, Pierce Brosnan, Sarah Jessica Parker, Danny DeVito, Martin Short, Michael J. Fox, Annette Bening, Natalie Portman, Tom Jones, Lucas Haas, Rod Steiger, and the great Jim Brown. The film had a budget of 70 million and made a box office of $101 million. Tone, we talk about this film like all the time, and it's finally made an appearance on the list. Tell me why you picked this one.
Oh, I mean, this movie is it's we don't have enough time to fill this whole entire show to talk about this movie, but there's so many things about it that I want to talk about, or I want to say, or I want to currently right now up in my attic, if we ever are able to get the Sadistic Penguin Studios museum up and running, I got a couple grand worth of Mars Attack stuff. I got the red cape, the purple cape, 2 masks. I got a whole the figure line, action figure cards. These were all inherited from my father, who, for some unknown reason, when this movie came out, he saw it 8, 9 times at the movie theater. We got pulled over on the way home the first time because he said he was so excited because how awesome it was. For me, I thought it was great. Seeing all these actors working together. I mean, Lucas Haas, for me, I mean, I love him in Witness with Harrison Ford, but I also love him in Lady in White, where he's up in the attic. It's a pretty kind of scary movie, but Jack Black's in it. I mean, the cast is just deep. And what I like after doing research for this tonight was just actually how much Tim Burton really put into this movie. The way he really, to me back then when I watched this in Independence Day, when it first came out, I was like, man, they work so much harder on Independence Day. This looks cheaper. But the reality is he actually put a lot more work into this than they did Independence Day with little models. He made this, as I was doing research, into more of like the movies he enjoyed as a kid that we were talking about, those 1950s sci-fi movies. I mean, the aliens are awesome in this movie.
Yeah.
Just talking like that the whole time. Great, man. It's great.
Yeah, and just to piggyback off what you were saying, he got a lot of inspiration from films like Earth versus Flying Saucers,
Great movie.
the Thing from Outer Space that we talked about earlier. He got stuff from there. A lot of stop motion kind of stuff is what he got into. I do one of my favorite parts in the film is when Rob Steiger, the aliens after when they come for the president and he's like shooting at him, and he's just getting smaller and smaller, and they eventually just step on him. It just cracks me up. Rob Steiger, who's like a big tough guy,
Great.
but eventually just gets stepped on by the aliens because they make him small. Or when they shoot the nuclear missile at the ship and they basically just make it into helium and make fun of us, is always a great scene.
I liked one of my favorites is when Jack Black dies, but his dad, Joe Don Baker, is like watching on TV back at home, and he's like, no, this can't be happening. This can't be happening. And like Lucas Haas is like at the hospital, and the grandma, who's awesome in this movie, he like saves her, and she's just like in her own world. Just a lot of awesome throwbacks. I mean, when you think Pierce Brosnan's in this, and Sarah Jessica Parker, and Jack Nicholson playing multiple roles. I mean, it's almost like Jack Nicholson doing Eddie Murphy in a sci-fi movie. It's hamming it up, having a good time.
Yeah, and doing research for this, I found that Nicholson actually accepted the role before even reading the script because he loved doing Batman with Tim Burton and wanted to work with him again. And then when Burton and him were going through the script and they were shooting, the studio actually was telling Tim Burton, "You can't kill Jack Nicholson. You can't kill him off. You can't kill his character. You shouldn't do it." And to piss them off, he had Jack Nicholson play 2 characters and he killed them both off. Which is crazy. Especially the president. The president gets impaled and then like a little flag comes out of him, which is always stuck out to me.
I couldn't find a workable clip, but I found Tim was talking, and he was saying that Warner pretty much just because he had Jack, Warner was pretty much like, whatever you need, we got it. Like that's what's him just getting Jack was able to make this movie and put in the magic he was able to. Because like they know if you got Jack, you're at least going to make your money back and quite some more, which at least they doubled its money.
Oh yeah, I mean, definitely.
Now with sales and this and that, with what my father put into all that stuff I have up in the attic, which it's actually would be a cool Halloween costume. I might bring it back out.
Oh man, you gotta bust out with it, man.
I might bring it. Yeah. Halloween party.
Just a couple more tidbits about the film. Tim Burton actually visited Tom Jones backstage after one of his Las Vegas performances to ask him to be in the film. And Jones's actual backup singers at the time, Darnell Porter, Holden, and Christy Black, and Sharon Hendricks, are his singers in the film that get doomed and shot, which I thought was hilarious. Michael J. Fox actually was suffering from Parkinson's disease. His early signs of Parkinson's disease was coming out here, and he was actually shaking during some of the scenes they were shooting. So to make his character seem normal, they actually had it when he sees aliens that he gets fear shakes, like he can't control himself. So that kind of was filtered into the film, which I thought was kind of cool. And Danny DeVito got top billing for this film, and his character only appears about 1.5 minutes, and he only has 6 lines.
Jim Brown's great in this movie, and Pam Grier, great.
Yep. Yeah, Jim Brown as the former boxing champion who that works at
when the boxes the alien and hits him. Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, and then I like how he takes off, like the alien takes off his cape, and then, like they're about to like he's like so tiny compared to Jim Brown. It's this film is great. Like I remember seeing this I didn't see it when it came out in theater. I actually saw this at a drive-in.
Oh, that's actually really cool.
And then we rented it afterwards. It's awesome. So if you have not seen this Mars Attacks, be sure to check this Mars Attacks out. I'm pretty sure you can find it on Amazon Prime. I know Apple TV has it, but it's definitely worth your time. It's got so many people in it that from bigger movie stars, but it's definitely blended together to where it's not too much at once. It's a nice little flow to it. And even though they have smaller roles, it's kind of cool to see what happens to everybody in it. Great pick, Tone.
Thank you.
Let's go in with our next one, my friend.
Approximately 7 hours ago, something attacked the city. I don't know what it is. If you found this tape, I mean, if you're watching this right now, then you probably know more about it than I do. Whatever it is, it killed my brother, Jason Hawkins. It killed my best friend, Hudson Platt, and Marlena Diamond, and many others. We've crashed here in Central Park and taken shelter under this bridge. The military has begun bombing the creature, and we're caught in the middle.
2008's Cloverfield, directed by Matt Reeves, who also directed The Batman, Let Me In, War for the Planet of the Apes, and Dawn of the Planet of the Apes. The film stars Mike Vogel, Jessica Lucas, and Lizzie Kaplan. The movie had a budget of $25 million and made $172 million at the box office, with $29 million more coming out of video sales. This is one of my picks, Tone. And I know you said you don't like found footage films, but this one, the found footage film for this story actually made a lot more sense than it would say for like the Blair Witch or whatnot, because there's the aftermath of an attack that nobody knows what was happening. I remember seeing this on TV, the commercials for it, and I didn't know what it was about. All it was like see the military just shooting stuff off, and there was like a news broadcast and whatnot. It really got me into it. When I went to go see it, I actually really enjoyed the style, the way the film was shot, because it's not all shot in the camcorder style. It's actually shot like half and half. And as well as, you don't see too much of the alien or the monster, and you see these other things, the other creatures around. One of the scenes that always sticks out to me is when the girl actually gets bit by one of the parasites and she goes behind the curtain and blows up, like splatters blood. That was always a cool feature of my, of the film. I really, really like the way Matt Reeves went this direction. And, for this film, of basically this thing attacking, you find out later that when they were going through the story that it's actually a baby looking for its mother. So it's still young. And then you go to 10 Cloverfield Lane, which is a continuation of the story in a different form. and now they're going to come out with a part 3, which I'm looking forward to. I really, really enjoyed the Cloverfield movies, and I wish they would get talked about more. What do you think about this one?
Um, Honestly, it's an antithesis of what I just told you about the found footage movies
Mhm.
because I love this movie. I loved. I hate to bring them up again, but this was another one that my father enjoyed quite a lot. Saw it 4 or 5 times. I think I went a couple times with him. It's a lot of fun. It's as you stated, it's totally different. And honestly, until you started talking about it, I didn't really ever think of it as a found footage movie. I never have until right now. As you started talking, and I started feeling like, oh no, I spoke about found footage movies. When the truth of the matter is it's great. It's done perfectly. But then again, you're in the hands of an amazing director, I think, who's done some really good work. So you're going to get good things. 10 Cloverfield Lane, I enjoyed quite a lot. Um, I'm glad that you haven't realized that the third one has actually been released on it's actually on what do you call that? You could watch it on what's the streaming site, the popular one, the most one? I can't got the
Netflix?
Yes. It's called Cloverfield Paradox. It came out after the
Oh.
Super Bowl, but not nothing like
Oh my
these
god.
first 2. But I don't even know if you would consider that a like really a good third one in this series, but this movie's great, man. And when you had it on your list, I don't even know why I didn't think of it, but I'm glad you did because it deserves all the love it gets. And I love the second one equal as much. It's a different affair, but I definitely enjoy it because I love John Goodman.
Yeah, John Goodman is another person that doesn't get enough, flowers thrown his way for his acting. People mostly remember him from Roseanne and now The Conners as a more of a comedic actor, uh, or the Flintstones. But to me, I like remember him from roles like 10 Cloverfield Lane. He's also in Fallen as the other detective. He's a good actor. Oh Brother Where Art Thou, where he plays the racist guy.
Yes.
He's a very, and then as of course as from The Big Lebowski.
Oh yeah.
But he's an excellent actor.
In this movie, though, there are actors that I've seen in other movies that
Mhm.
I enjoy. I mean, I'm a big Lizzie Kaplan fan. I've seen her in quite a few things that I enjoy. Um, Theo Rossi was great in Sons of Anarchy. Ben Feldman has been in Mad Men. He did a good job. So, and I'm not going to talk about T.J. Miller because supposedly he's had some kind of trouble, but he's good in this movie. Again, great cast for this movie and what they're doing. I liked what you saw from the alien. I actually liked what I was talking about signs earlier, the problems with what you saw in the alien. I liked what you saw here. You don't need to see a lot of things to get the feeling. Um, I think what was cool is that you were left hanging like, will there ever be another one that was like this, where you saw like a Godzilla, more of like, well, this is the real, because they had talked about, which I thought would have been cool, like finding other cameras at the site that showed different angles of what happened to make the sequels. But I don't know, but definitely a great movie as a standalone.
So I looked at the Cloverfield Paradox right now where you were speaking,
Mhm.
uh, and it did not get good reviews.
No.
Um, in 2021, it was officially announced that a new sequel will be a direct continuation of this film, the 2008
Oh,
Cloverfield, a true sequel to that film as opposed to another anthology story.
nice.
Uh, so there is a fourth installment of the films coming, which is actually going to
Cool.
be the true
That's
um,
actually pretty awesome.
sequel.
Didn't even know that. Awesome.
So I wonder if this one's gonna have Matt Reeves in it again, even though he was in the third one. I'm still gonna watch the third one to see how bad it is, but it's disappointing. I didn't know there was a third one. I thought there was gonna be like another continuation. I didn't know there was Cloverfield Paradox, and it came out 6 years ago, so I'm
Yeah,
way
I
behind.
remember what I remember about it, which was really stupid. It was like, when you're done watching the this playoff game, we got Cloverfield Paradox coming on Netflix. And I was like, oh, this is gonna be great. And then I was like, oh, okay. But maybe you'll like it. I don't want to, that's why maybe you'll talk me into liking it. We'll see.
Yeah, we'll see.
I mean, the monster in this movie, I thought was incredible. The way it looked.
I like the way they showed it. Like I love the little scenes of when he's running. So even the parasites, when they show the
Yeah,
parasites, I love but the scene where they're like the monsters coming like this shot you have here,
yeah,
or when the military's fighting it, you see the military shooting the missiles at it,
yeah,
and then he cuts away because he's trying to get away, but he's trying to capture what's happening.
yeah. Oh yeah.
So they add a little bit of realism to it. And the ending of the film when is what I use as the opening as the sound clip. And it's basically his camcorder dies, and without credits, the film runs for 80 minutes, and that's how long a usual tape for that particular camcorder would be, which I thought was pretty cool
It was.
for
Yeah.
Matt Reeves keeping it in that thing, in that sense of reality. But if you haven't seen this one, definitely check this one out. It's definitely worth your time. It's a classic film, and the sequel to this is really good. According to Tony, the third one sucks though, but
And
no.
you know me, I mean, I've really talked about some movies that might be
Yeah, it
considered
was kind of
decent by
surprising.
a
So it
lot.
must be
So,
pretty
like,
bad.
I'm telling you, it was bad when I saw it. So,
Yeah,
and it was I saw it 6 years ago, so maybe I need to revisit it too.
but yeah, definitely check it out. But let's move on to your next one, my man.
They communicate with you.
Okay, look, you've got two choices. You can either be quiet or step outside.
They're gonna give this guy a chance. Mr. Walton, can you tell me what they look like? Can you tell me how many of them there were? Were you given food? Injection?
All right, that's enough, mister.
Mike.
It's important the entire world learns of your experience.
That's enough, Mike. Come on.
1993's Fire in the Sky, directed by Robert Lieberman, who also directed D3 to Mighty Ducks, The Tortured, and Table for Five. The film stars D.B. Sweeney, Robert Patrick, Craig Schaefer, Peter Berg, Bradley Gregg, and Henry Thomas. It had a budget of $15 million and a box office of $19 million. Tone, tell me why you picked this one.
This was one again, 12-13. I'm surfing the HBO. I think it was on a lot. And this is probably when I say that I probably shouldn't have watched this movie when I did, because it actually disturbed me a lot more than a lot of the other horror movies I watched, because of the fact of it felt real. And number two, I've always been a big if I like an actor, I love T2, love Robert Patrick. So as soon as I see Robert Patrick, but he's like not the Robert Patrick in T2, he's got long hair. He's like, it's like, oh, this is going to be cool. And again, another name me and my friends used to laugh about was DB Sweeney. So like, oh, DB Sweeney, I got to watch this. So I just thought the whole presentation, and when he ends up going on that plane, I think I could actually tell you this is some of my first being empathetic in a movie. Like, holy moly, that would be the worst. Like, I felt that in this movie. I think it's an excellent portrayal of the whole entire experience of what I think it would be like if it was true. And the performances, as you stated, I like the performances of the actors when he's gone, and them if it was like all the penguins out there in the field and one of us got taken, but we all got to tell what happened, it would be very interesting. And the way they portrayed it and filmed it was very, very, very interesting. Very spooky, a lot of the movie too.
Yeah, the lot more aliens in this film.
Those aliens, though.
They are very creepy looking. This scene that you're showing right now, while rewatching this, the characters of, the scene where he goes through this and he rips through this skin type. The people from the Matrix had to be inspired a little bit by this, because there is some similarities there. I remember I didn't see this movie in theaters. We actually rented this from the video store, and I watched this actually with my aunt and my dad. And it was a creepy movie. It was creepy how when they take him and then he ends up in the whole room where he breaks out, he finds that body that's still alive, that's kind of coming up and still moving with its insides ripped out. When they basically torture him in the scene, and they stuff stuff down his throat. And then they leave him there, and he drinks all the water. One scene that sticks out to me is he goes and drinks water from the sink. He just puts his mouth on the nozzle and just lets water just It was creepy. And yes, Keelan, DB Sweeney is legitimately a goofy name.
DBX. Yeah,
Yeah,
DBX.
but unfortunately, it came out later that Travis Walton, who the film is based off, uh, his alien abduction in 1975 is widely regarded as a hoax.
Oh no.
Even by believers of UFO and alien abduction. So apparently, and it's kind of funny doing research for this. He didn't like the way the film was made. He thought didn't portray like his experiences correctly. And I'm like, but it didn't really happen. So what are you talking about? But yeah, the way he was abducted didn't happen the way he claims it was. But it's come out that his accomplice that helped him with it, apparently they had all these lights set up in there because he was basically a lumberjack. He worked for a lumber company. Him and his accomplice had lights set up to where they would flash and blind the people in the cars, and he got out to make it seem like he was abducted. And he finally, his accomplice came out and said that he was filled in with it, but he's still denying, saying he wasn't a hoax. It's real. But a lot of people have come out and said, yeah, it's completely a hoax, which is unfortunate. But the film doesn't take away from the film because I think the film is awesome. It's a film that doesn't get
See
talked
what I
about enough.
mean? That's what I was talking about earlier about the whole entire dialogue thing with the accent with Tom Hardy. See, it doesn't matter that the story wasn't true. The story was scary enough to be like, whoa, what happens if it was true?
Yeah, well, it takes me out of the whole you're in Chicago. Don't be like,
I know.
yeah,
I'm kidding. I'm just being silly. I was also going to bring up that some of the movies, like when I was putting the list together to do it, I had to knock off a couple. And the one I knocked off that this took its place was Tobe Hooper in the middle of the 80s had this movie called Invaders from Mars, where the aliens in there look like giant potatoes. I wanted to do that one, but this alien seems a little scarier than the giant potatoes. But I always just thought this was a scarier one.
I almost put Attack of the Killer Tomatoes as one of my.
That would have been a good one too.
Yeah. I'm looking at the Invaders from Mars stuff. Yeah, I'm just looking at it right now. Oh my god, that's so great.
Which again, I'll give credit where credit's due. My dad, they look like giant potatoes. And I was like a kid going, what it look like? And they're aliens. And what's her name's in it? Nurse Ratched from she's the star from One Flew the Cuckoo's Nest. Louise Fletcher. So it's
she won an Oscar.
Yeah, she sure did. She was great.
Yeah. But definitely this movie definitely needs to get more notoriety. It needs to people, even though it didn't work out great for the
true story.
It's the true story. It's still kind of cool that this kind of had, this film came out because it's freaky as hell. It's right up there with me with the Fourth Kind, but this film is a little bit more graphic in terms of what happens, and I really enjoyed that. So if you haven't seen it, be sure to definitely check it out. Good pick, Tone. Let's go into our next one, my friend.
We came here from a dying world. We drift through the universe from planet to planet, pushed on by the solar winds. We adapt, and we survive. Function of life is survival.
1978's Invasion of the Body Snatchers. Directed by Philip Kaufman, who also did The Wanderers, The Right Stuff, and Henry and June. The film stars the late Donald Sutherland, Brooke Adams, Leonard Nimoy, and a young Jeff Goldblum. The film had a box office of $24 million on a $3.5 million budget. This film is a remake of a film in the 50s, Invasion of the Body Snatchers. And this film is actually considered one of the greatest remakes in film history, which to me is crazy. But more and more I think about it, I would have to concur. It's definitely a film that's freaked people out in the 70s and the 80s with the alien craze of people being possessed and taken over. The ending, for one, is something that always stick out to me where she thinks that he's normal. She runs up to him and he does her and scares the shit out of her. Yeah, great scene right there. It's been parodied in Aqua Teen Hunger Force. It's been parodied in other shows and other films. Uh, the whole taking over people's cloning, and Leonard Nimoy plays an evil alien in this film. Everybody knows him for Spock, but in this film, he plays more of a evil, cold-hearted alien, and I really, really enjoy this film. I rewatched this film yesterday, on the train, on the morning there and the morning back, the drive back, and I can't get enough of it. I really, really love this film. Um, Perfectly made in terms of, the, uh, the way it's shot, though it's continuous. It's a 2-hour movie that doesn't feel like a 2-hour movie. It's nicely flows very nicely, and when doing research, when this film came out, somebody actually had pods made and was putting them around the city, freaking people out, which I thought was, pretty crazy. But if you haven't seen this one, please explore this one. This is a good one. What do you think about this one, Tone?
We talk about lots and lots and lots and lots of different type of films in this show. We talk about, we're talking about Aliens type, but this movie is a classic. I mean, this is. I know people. If I'm feeling frisky enough, I might argue that I put this in like a Godfather type of category, where it's a good all around film. It's a go around acting. It's a go around thriller. It's got everything. And honestly, I love this movie a lot. I love Donald Sutherland in this movie. I love it reminds me of The Thing before The Thing. I love the idea of just who has it, who doesn't. Like you're looking at people and the paranoia and it all. And as you stated before, the ending just really adds up to a really good movie. Nothing cheesy about it. A lot of movies that maybe have aliens or have some laughs, but this movie is a good movie, a good filmed movie, and I always have enjoyed it since the first time I seen it, which honestly was like in college. It wasn't something that I saw when I was younger, so I'm glad maybe I was a little bit more mature because there's been times where a movie maybe I wasn't mature yet and I watched it. For example, off cuff, Glenn Ross. I'll never forget, me and 4 friends rented it, and like they were just talking. And my buddy leaves the room, and I go to my other friends, I go, watch this. I get up and I hit the fast forward button 40 minutes, and he comes back in, and we're still sitting there, and I go, look, it's still the same movie. And he never knew that I fast forwarded 40 minutes. But then I watched that movie later and I go, what a jerk off I was to go and do that, because the movie's great. I love that movie. I'm glad this falls in that category. I watched it when I was a little more mature because it's a great all around movie.
Yeah, definitely. And it has a young Donald Sutherland in it. There's some like small little cameos of people. Harry, the homeless banjo guy, is played by Jerry Garcia,
Yes,
which is
yes.
which is awesome. You also have, Donald Sutherland was actually hit by a Volkswagen. Yeah, Donald Sutherland was actually hit by a Volkswagen Beetle while filming a shot
Ooh.
of Matthew and Elizabeth running. He fell onto the windshield and was able to see the driver say, "Oh God, not you," which I thought was pretty hilarious. I mean, he ended up okay, but just like it's just a creepy film, and it's Jeff Goldblum is just when he's possessed by the aliens, he's just totally creepy. Leonard Nimoy, it's slow and methodical, and even that whole little monologue I gave for the opening when he's telling them that they're going to be basically taken over. He tells them he's going to shoot them with drugs, and she's like, "Why are you giving us this?" He's like, "Oh, it's going to make you go to sleep." And she goes, "No, no," and he goes, "Don't worry, in a half an hour you won't even care." Which is ridiculous. Like it's like, "Oh, you're not gonna," and then he explains where they came from and whatnot. I really enjoy this film. It's a perfect film to me, and like I said, a perfect remake.
Great pick.
Thank you, sir. Let's go on to your next pick, my man.
The quickest way to end a miracle is to ask it why it is what it wants.
1987's Batteries Not Included. Directed by Matthew Robbins, who did Corvette Summer, Amazing Stories, A Legend of Billie Jean. He also wrote Mimic 1 and 2, Don't Be Afraid of the Dark, and Del Toro's Pinocchio. The movie stars Hume Cronin, Jessica Tandy, and Frank McRae. Had a budget of 25 million and a box office of 65 million. Tone, this is one of your picks, and I will be honest, I don't think I've ever seen this film fully through. I remember seeing it on TV, on TMC, and like HBO, but I never watched it fully through, and I couldn't find it to watch it in time. So sell me on this one, my man.
Um, this movie again, when we were deciding to pick out movies and I was doing the research, I'm trying to look for different avenues, different things to bring to the table. The reason I brought this one to the table was, again, 8, 9, 10 years old. I watched this movie. It's got a lot of heart. I'm a big fan of Cocoon. I'm a big fan. So like growing up, when I would see Jessica Tandy or Hugh Chrome, I would used to be like, I wish that was my grandpa because they just seem so nice. And in this movie, they're a nice older couple who own a diner, and the building is falling apart, and they don't have the money to fix it. So it's not looking good. What's also really other great performances in the movie, of course, is Elizabeth Pena from La Bamba. She does a really, really, really good job in the movie. But it pretty much what ends up happening is they come and these little robot flying machines come and pretty much end up helping them in the kitchen and doing stuff around this building and end up actually making the place better. It's a very, very positive movie. It's not something, it's not I guess it was originally intended to be an amazing stories, but they decided to stretch it into a real movie. Again, it just shows a lot of heart, which a lot of alien movies, let's be honest, are scary. This movie, again, seeing all of that is why I enjoyed it. And again, when doing this, I have the movie on a flash drive. That's why I watched it again. But it's not one that you see very often. It reminds me a lot of a Steven Spielberg movie in that these aren't bad aliens at all. They're really just, it's almost like through the electricity that they come. It's a very cool little story.
Cool, yeah. I remember seeing it from what I saw. I remember I liked it. I just couldn't, finish it, or I was always in the middle of something. But I did see some, the funny thing is the title, Batteries Not Included, was actually the original title for another film. Uh, the Sox have won 30 games, Tony. I'm sorry. The Sox have won 30 games on August 16th. We have won 30 games. So you know that's some good stuff there when the Sox win 30 games. Sorry about that. Thank you, Sam, for letting us know the Sox win. They're making the playoffs now. But this film's titled "Batteries Not Included" was actually a title for another film that Keelin had brought up earlier, and that's Child's Play. They changed the title to Child's Play after this film because of Batteries Not Included came out, and Child's Play was forced to change its name because of this film. Isai Morales actually had a role in this film, was offered a role, but he didn't like the fact that his character was the same, had the same last name as the character from La Bamba. But it's kind of funny that Elizabeth Pena's in this film and she was in La Bamba too. But definitely the creatures look cool in here. Like they look really cool, like the picture you're showing now, little robot. From the clips I saw on YouTube, they were cool.
Frank McRae, who's in the movie, he played for the Chicago Bears in the '67 season, appearing in six games. He was a professional football player. He's also in a lot of movies. He's Captain Hayden in 48 Hours. He's works as the security guard at the end of National Lampoon's Vacation. Does a really good job as kind of like, he reminds me a lot of the Chief in Cuckoo's Nest, a quiet, but as the movie goes along, you realize he plays an integral part too. Again, it's all about the performances. It's a good movie.
Keelan says Barry's Not Included would have been a bit of a spoiler, to be honest. Yep, definitely.
It would have been.
But I definitely would like to check this out. I just have to see where I can find it. But good pick, man. Good pick. A film that is not even talked about a lot.
Deep cut.
Definitely good deep cut. Uh, our next one is not a deep cut though, but it's one I know Keelan will enjoy.
I have come here to chew bubblegum and kick ass. And I'm all out of bubblegum.
1988's They Live, directed by John Carpenter, who directed The Thing, Halloween 1 and 2, The Fog, Escape from New York, Ghost of Mars, and In the Mouth of Madness. You thought I was going to go with The Thing, but I went with another John Carpenter classic. The film stars Roddy Piper, Keith David, Meg Foster, George Buckflower, and Peter Jason. It had a budget of $4 million and made $13 million at the box office, with $2 million coming in video sales. This is one of my favorite films from Carpenter because it has a guy from wrestling, and it has John Carpenter. It's two of my favorite things when I was growing up. Roddy Piper was the man when I was a kid, and seeing him in the film kind of like cross over to films that didn't suck on like Hulk Hogan. It really excited me. The whole concept of this film was awesome. Having the glasses that can reveal the aliens around us, or the ghouls, as they're referred to in this film. I love the fact that he looks at the billboards like obey, demand, listen. I always like that the whole story behind the film. I thought was very interesting and very cool. And it also has a epic fight with Keith David in the alley over him putting on the glasses. I also realized, we always call Roddy Piper's character Nada, and the reason we do that is because he's in the credits, but in the film, his name's never mentioned. This film is like a cult classic. Roddy Piper came out with a soda pop called All Full of Bubblegum, All Out of Bubblegum Soda Pop, which is really good. It's made by Rocket Fuel. It's actually a place in Illinois. If you can get your hands on it, I would definitely drink it. It's very, very tasty, very sugary, but very, very tasty. I bought. My brother was in Wyoming when they had a bunch of them at Rocket Fuel stores out there. I bought like 30 of them, and they're awesome. I think I have a bottle around here that I just keep for like a keepstone when he passed away. But definitely an awesome film. Great story. I love that John Carpenter saw Roddy Piper at WrestleMania 3 and decided I want to throw this guy in the film. He also saw, Keith David in, I believe, The Thing. He loved his performance in there, and he's like, man, Roddy Piper needs a traditional sidekick. That's not a traditional sidekick, so let's go with Keith David. He wrote that role specifically for him. And Vince McMahon didn't want Roddy Piper to do this film. Tone. So Roddy Piper quit. He quit wrestling, and when Carpenter asked why he quit, he said, "McMahon's a control freak. When I come back to wrestling, I was twice as important. When I came back to wrestling, I was twice as important when I left." He says and credits Carpenter for the success of the film. Definitely check this one out if you haven't. Tone, I know you've seen this film. I know you're chomping at the bit to talk about it. What do you think about it?
Before I get into what I'm going to talk about, I'm going to ask you 5 movies. Do you think these 5 movies are great? Halloween.
Yes.
The Thing.
Yes.
Escape from New York.
Yes.
Big Trouble in Little China.
Yes.
And now we're going to talk about it's one of the greatest runs. Those 5 movies for me, they're one of the greatest 5 runs. And this being the final of that run. His movies after this are good, but these movies are all great movies. This movie is great for many reasons. The originality of it, of course, why I find it to be great. The idea of picking up a pair of sunglasses and being able to see the monsters is great. This is one of my favorite scenes when the guy's like in the bar and they're just like going through the different like places, and the one guy's just like staring up at the thing. I just like it a lot. I think Roddy Piper does a great job. In a lot of ways, in this movie, I think he's even a better actor than Dolph Lundgren is in a lot of movies. And I love Dolph Lundgren, but Piper could have been something even a little bit more if people gave him more of a chance, more scripts like this. Because he does a great job at it. It's a shame not more came of it after this.
Yeah, it's really unfortunate. And then, you mentioned The Thing and Big Trouble in Little China. This film was actually written for Kurt Russell, this role. And Carpenter actually thought, I love Kurt Russell, but he's been in 4 of my films, Escape from New York, The Thing, Elvis. He was in the original Elvis that he did.
Yep.
And then Big Trouble, and he's like, I got, maybe it's time I cast somebody else. And that's when he found Roddy Piper, and he knocked it out of the ballpark. And you listen to Piper's podcast, Piper's Pit that he had before he passed. He talks about this role a lot in a lot of his shows, and he talks about how like when he did that scene, I'm here to chew bubblegum, and I'm all out. I'm kick ass on chew bubblegum, and I'm all out bubblegum. He said that he thought that off the fly, and that's why he says it the way he says it because he was thinking of it off the fly. Like, I am here,
Good. It's good. And honestly, I'm a huge Keith David stan. So to me, he's equally as good in this movie as he is as he plays Childs and The Thing. Does a really good job in this movie.
Yeah, and the way the aliens look is really cool. This film actually still holds up to this today, the way the graphics are.
I wonder if Men at Work with Keith David is like a sequel to this with Charlie Sheen and Emilio Estevez, because he's kind of like the same grungy character. But I just like this movie a lot. It's a lot of fun. It's definitely speaks to the 80s, which we love.
Yeah, I just read something right now, I wanted to mention. John Carpenter brought real homeless folks into the production for several scenes and smaller characters and gave them food as well as paychecks. And Roddy Piper said, "I thought that was a pretty classy thing to do."
Very classy. I mean, John Carpenter, by all accounts, puts everything into his movies. At least these 5, he puts a lot. I mean, he makes the music, he does the script. So that's awesome. That makes me think he's even more awesome.
Yeah, definitely. And, one of the titans and probably one of the last titans of horror films still around,
Yeah.
Hopefully he
Yeah.
comes back for one more, film. But we'll
Did
see.
you ever watch his last movie that came out? It was called The Ward.
Yeah.
I mean, again, that's a lot that seems different than these movies that we're talking about. So hopefully maybe he gets one more chance to go out there and put something really awesome together.
Yeah, I would love it. I would love it. He's still in pretty good health, so maybe he can. He's still releasing music.
I wish I didn't get to go. I really wanted to, was when he came to the Aragon Ballroom just to play music. Like it was just like him, and they did all like the theme songs and all of that. That would have been cool to see.
Definitely. Yeah, John Carpenter is the best, man. But if you've seen Carpenter films and you like Carpenter films, this is an epic Carpenter film that gets talked about a lot. It's a cult classic, but it's one of my favorites, so I had to throw it in there for our show today. And we're gonna finish it off, Tone, with the film that when I saw this on the list, I cracked up, my man.
Good.
But here we go with Tony's pick and the final one for the show.
We decided to make it female so that it would be more docile and controllable.
More docile and controllable, huh? I guess you guys don't get out much.
1995 Species, directed by Roger Donaldson, who also directed The World's Fastest Indian, No Way Out, The Bounty, McLaren, The November Man, The Recruit, The 13 Days, Dante's Peak, and the Tom Cruise classic Cocktail. The film stars Natasha Henstridge, Michael Madsen, Ben Kingsley, and Alfred Molina. It had a box office of $113 million on a $35 million budget. Tone, tell me why you picked this one, my man.
Oh man, being able to see this in the movie theater when it came out, and like honestly, it falls into a Friday night popcorn movie. It's ridiculous in a lot of ways. I'm a huge Michael Madsen fan, man. I mean, his performance in this movie is great. Her performance, Natasha, she does a great job, right? Natasha Kinski, did I get that right? Henstridge, yes, I get them confused. Does a great job. I like Ben Kingsley. He's ridiculous in this movie. The idea again of the way this movie plays out all the way to the end, the way the movie ends with the cheesy the way there's going to be a sequel. That's how it ends up. But Alfred Molina, ridiculous. Forrest Whitaker, man. I mean, any movie Forrest Whitaker's in, it's something. But you know what I'm excited for, since you said it like that? I'm really excited to hear what you got to say.
Oh no! I just thought it was hilarious because I remember when this film came out. We saw all the trailers, and of course, being like 13, 12, 10-year-old, 11-year-olds when this film was like out. Everybody's like, "Oh, Natasha Henstridge is hot. She's super hot."
I didn't really want to go there, but yes, that's exactly.
That made me laugh because I'm like, oh, and then she was Species, and everybody's like, oh yeah, she's the best. But it just was like a concept that was like she would have sex with you to kill you. That's why it made me laugh.
It's a ridiculous. It's a very, 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 very ridiculous concept.
Yeah, and when I was doing research for this film, Alfred Molina recalled that Natasha Henstridge was very nervous on the day filming their sex scene since she had never acted in one before. Molina lightened the mood by telling her it was his first sex scene for him too, since his only previous sex scene was with a man in Prick You Up Your Ears in 1987. So that cracked me up. It was interesting to find out that Arnold Schwarzenegger was interested in this film, but he loved the script, but it was clear that the budget wouldn't allow him to be in it because he commanded too much of a salary, which is unfortunate. But I thought this film was actually, it's not bad. It's just the concept is just out there. Michael Madsen signed on because he wanted to be a hero for once. He was tired of being the bad guy, and he does a great job. And Natasha Henstridge does a great job in this film. I also liked her a lot in Ghost of Mars, even though people hate that film. I liked her a lot in that film. Ben Kingsley is Ben Kingsley, man.
Do you back to Prick Up Your Ears? Do you know who it was that his partner was in that movie?
Which one?
In Prick Up Your Ears with Alfred Molina?
No.
Everyone, Gary Oldman.
Oh my god!
So it's another but again, as you were saying about this movie, I believe everything that you just said. It adds to the ridiculous lore of this movie. If you like the first one, honestly, sequel's not terrible. It's not terrible. But again, it's what's the word I'm looking for? This isn't fire in the sky aliens. This is a little more ridiculous aliens from my perspective.
Yeah, and the crazy thing is, the girl who plays a young Syl, that's her name, Syl, the alien, Michelle Williams, she would go on to play a person briefly infected by an alien in 2018's Venom. So that's kind of cool. But definitely, film that's definitely out there, but not bad at all. But I just cracked me up when I saw it. So like, oh man, Tone picked Species.
Even if you didn't like this one, there's movies where I could be like, why don't you like? This isn't one where I'd be like, I could understand. It's got its peaks, but Michael Madsen, just being Michael Madsen, you could sign me up.
Well, Ben Kingsley too. I love Ben Kingsley
too. I always forget him in this movie too, because he's such a good actor that when I'm thinking of movies he's in, I don't go to his role in Species, but it's great. He's great in it.
I'm not gonna lie. Every time I see him on a film, I think of Michael Imperioli from The Sopranos, going "fuck Ben Kingsley." but definitely a good pick, Tone. It cracked me up when I saw it.
Good.
So that's our list. That's our 10 films. Hopefully, we gave you some films that maybe you haven't heard of or that you've heard of and you're kind of interested in getting at. If we missed some films that you thought should have made the list, let us know at the show pod on Twitter or at Lil Yumper or at the Hookup on Music or at the Sugar Baggie. Let us know there, or just let us know in the comments. We'll be looking forward to those replies. Anything final to say for the films, Tone?
No, it was really awesome to go through a lot of these movies. I also realized there's a couple as we were talking that I totally forgot about. I could have picked like Killer Clowns from Outer Space because literally they're from outer space, but that just means that there's more cooler stuff to talk about at a later date.
For sure, my man. For sure. Killer Clown. I was thinking about that too, but I'm like, we people kind of know that one. Yeah. Dun. But Tone, let's start closing out this show, my man. Tell everybody what's coming soon next week.
All right, what we got coming.
Let's get ready to rumble.
Coming soon.
Próximamente.
Coming soon.
Coming soon.
What I was going to say before I had to say we got coming up is my man Yemper. I don't know if you know this, but on HBO Max today, Mad Max Furiosa dropped. So if you're looking to watch that, that's going to be awesome. But what we got that's really, really, really awesome is next week. Are we going to be going on Sunday?
Yeah, Sunday.
Next Sunday, we are going to talk about a classic, The Warriors. Again, as we always do, we're going to have some pretty awesome production notes. We're going to go through the film, have a film breakdown. And then, as always, we're going to go after some fan theory after, and which is always great. This is a great pick because it's a really awesome movie.
Yeah, and the reason that actually I was talking about this tone with you is because there's been talks now of a remake being made.
Oh,
that's been coming out. It's actually caught some fire now, and it's actually looks like it's going to happen maybe next year. So with that news coming out, I'm like, why don't we just go over the original and then maybe we can review the remake when it comes out.
Yeah, that would be really good. Because speaking of remakes that we've talked about that are coming out, I know how excited you are for the new Crow.
Oh,
right
God.
on the corner.
Yeah, I saw somebody say this looks awesome. I'm like, Jesus Christ.
I saw that. I saw somebody say that, and I go, "What?" But who knows?
I'll go see it.
I'll watch it for the same reason I watch everything else, because at the very least, we'll have some laughs.
Yeah, but I'm gonna try going open-minded and see. But
Yeah.
from what I saw in the previews, it doesn't look that great. But we'll
promising.
Yeah, but we'll see. But that's what we're gonna have next week. So we'll have the film breakdown, like Tony said. We'll have our development, and we will have our fan theory. So be sure to check that out next Sunday at 2:00. When baseball season starts winding down, we will be a exclusive Friday show. So we'll be going back to Fridays. Just when baseball season's here, we have to alternate. But really looking forward to that, Tone.
It's gonna be great. Love the movie.
Yep, it's a classic. But Tone, let's get into your Sugar Baggies picks off track pick of the week, my man.
Let's do it.
The Sugar Baggies soundtrack pick of the week.
Tonight we are going with a movie soundtrack that honestly, I saw it and I was like, that was a great soundtrack. Honestly, there's times where a lot of people will say, "Oh, this band, they're not good anymore," or "This band isn't this," or "This band isn't that." But this song from this soundtrack, to me, it's almost close to perfect. It's just a really great written song, and it's the lead-off track to the Angus soundtrack. It's Jason Andrew Revel Jar by Green Day. But what a good soundtrack, loaded with everything from Weezer and the Riverdales to Dance Hall Crashers and Ash. Just a lot of good music, and honestly, a really good movie that, to be frank, I haven't watched in a long time. So I would curious to see how I would take this movie now, but the soundtrack is just got a lot of good stuff. The muffs, really, really awesome. I like soundtracks that it was a different time period for soundtracks back then, and I'm glad they put this one together for this movie.
Yeah, so I remember seeing this film when it came out. Actually, I didn't see it in theater, but I remember renting this film because it looked weird. And I actually enjoyed it. Kathy Bates in there, the guy who played George C. Scott, the guy who played Patton.
Yeah, see, it's been that long that I forgot.
Yeah.
That.
I also what's her name? A young Arena Richards is in the film. She plays his love interest, Melissa Lefevre. But yeah, I really like this film. You know, it's kind of out there. I do find it hilarious that the lead actor, what's his name? Let me look
Owen?
here. No, not Chris
Oh,
Owen.
yeah.
The guy who plays Angus. Charlie Talbot.
Talbot.
He was discovered at, I think, like a McDonald's or something, where he was ordering some fries and like it took a long time for them to make them, so he was just kind of like making jokes, and like one of the producers saw him and was like, "Oh, you would be great as Angus," and I'm like, "Damn, why can't it ever happen to me or you?" Or but it's pretty cool. Great soundtrack. The movie's kind of corny, but I like
James Vanderbeek is in the
oh
movie.
yeah, he's the guy who gets punched in his nose broken a lot.
But again, another soundtrack that sometimes gets mixed under the spectrum of awesome soundtracks.
Yeah, great pick, Tone. Just looking at the soundtrack, it's ridiculously good. Like Riverdale, Smoking Pope's in it.
Yeah,
Goo Dolls, the Muffs, Tilt. Totally like 90s, but great pick, my man.
Thank you.
Well, that's our show, and we're just under the 2-hour mark. So I'm sorry, Cotton, we couldn't get over the 2-hour mark for you, but we're close. We're on 1 hour and 51 minutes right now. Thank you so much to Keelin for coming on and doing Keelin's Cuts. I really like that segment, and I like the films that she's going to be bringing to us. Be sure to check out sadisticpenguinstudios.com for our blogs, all our podcasts, and other tomfoolery we got going on. I know Mr. Hand dropped the new Collector's Corner. Tony's been dropping stuff from Hook Up on Music. Tone, what's going on there?
Every day I can't walk, I can't hum. You know? Go ahead and kill me, you cocksucker.
What's going on at the Hookup on music? Just this past week, I had my man Mike, who has his own radio show on Chirp Radio on midnights. Just a really, really good conversation about a lot of artists that honestly he's thrown my way, and a lot of artists you might have heard of. So go back and check that one out. It was really a good time. And this Wednesday we're gonna have another new episode. So please tune into that and everything else on the station, because it's all awesome.
Sam says you gents work too hard. Damn it, I respect it. Thank you, Sam. It's not work when you're having fun, my man.
No, it really isn't. And honestly, I've been up since 5:50, and this show didn't feel like it at all. And I thought all day, this is going to be a tough one. And honestly, it was as smooth as cake, my man. So thank you.
No, thank you, my friends. I enjoy doing these with you. And thank you for everyone that listens and tunes in. We will be back next Sunday at 2:00 with our deep dive on the Warriors. Be sure to take it easy and let us know what good movies you watch next time.
Thank you.
Deuces.
Thanks for listening to the At the Show podcast, a Sadistic Penguin Studios production.
Game over, man. It's game over. What the fuck are we gonna do now? What are we gonna do?
Maybe we could build a fire, sing a couple of songs, huh? Why don't we try that?